almost every day. Temperatures about 27 degrees. La Paz, more rain, unfortunately, into their forecast. You remember we were talking about the mudslides and the landslides into their region. And also, very quickly over towards Europe, we are looking at very messy conditions across Italy still. Those rains will be a factor through the next couple of days.
Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
All the news, all the time. AlJazeera.net/English.
It's 36 to 38 degrees Celsius. No higher, no lower. It's soft, but not too soft. It's just enough to smooth things out. It's all of this, halfway to anywhere, with plenty of time to spare. The Qatar Airways Premium Terminal in Doha. 5-star service for first and business class passengers. Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline.
The fight for Libya. As casualties rise, doctors warn they're running out of supplies. I'm Lauren Taylor. This is Al Jazeera live from Doha. Also ahead,
immediate departure of Muammar Gaddafi within 72 hours.
The deal to dethrone Gaddafi. But we're getting different messages on just what the opposition wants. Also on the programme, minority rights in the new Egypt. Christian Copts take to the streets of Cairo. And what did the American commander in Afghanistan say to the US Defence Secretary? Punchline is not a joke. Hello, leave within 72 hours. That's the latest demand from Libya's opposition rebels. They're asking Muammar Gaddafi to stop bombing his people in return for immunity from prosecution in Libya. This after reports that Gaddafi had tried to negotiate an exit strategy. All the while, the fighting continues. There are reports that Gaddafi's tanks and warplanes are bombarding the town of Zawiya outside the capital, Tripoli. Libyan state television says that it has recaptured the town, but the rebels insist that they're still inside the city. Well, moving over to Bin Jawad, we've just received pictures of the fighting there. Rebels having to contend with aerial bombardment, and some of the injuries sustained are brutal. And in Ras Lanuf, witnesses have talked of as many as 6 airstrikes. Reports suggest that residents are having to leave in a hurry. Here's a roundup of today's events with Jackie Rowland.
The rebels of eastern Libya have become mired in a battle for 50 kilometres of desert terrain. Each time they try to advance on Bin Jawad, pro-Gaddafi troops push them back. And the rebels are increasingly on the defensive at their own forward position in the oil town of Ras Lanuf. Once again, Gaddafi's forces exploit their advantage from the air. The rebel army is a sitting target in this open terrain. They fire back randomly. Some of these fighters have never handled a weapon before.
What happened is that a warplane came and started to bomb a water plant that feeds the Ras Lanuf area, including hospitals and businesses in the city.
The hospitals of eastern Libya are inundated with the wounded. This man has been shot in the spine. Doctors fear he may be paralyzed from the neck down. But most of the injuries are not sustained in fighting against Gaddafi's forces. The rebels are untrained and undisciplined. They are wounding each other with reckless gunfire.
We are in a crisis right now. If the situation and the shelling continue, then we will not be able to cope at all. We will have to stop.
What the rebels lack in training and in strategy, they make up for in enthusiasm and the conviction that they are fighting for a just cause. But this is not enough to break through Gaddafi's forces, who appear to have drawn a line in the sand just outside Bin Jawad. This far, but no further.
Bin Jawad is less than 200 kilometres from Gaddafi's stronghold of Sirte, and that's perilously close. Sirte is home to Gaddafi's tribe, where he can command most loyal support. There's also an important military base there with heavy weapons. If Sirte were to fall into rebel hands, that would be the beginning of the end for Muammar Gaddafi. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera in eastern Libya.
Well, Abdul Adim Mohammed is a correspondent with our sister channel Al Jazeera Arabic. He's seen firsthand the damage caused by Tuesday's fighting in Ras Lanuf.
This is one of the houses that was shelled here in Ras Lanuf about an hour ago by 2 missiles, and this is the aftermath. One of the missiles did not explode and landed over there. Parts of the home were completely destroyed. The neighbors say that the people who lived here managed to flee half an hour before the house was bombed. And in fact, now the entire neighborhood is empty. We witnessed tens of families fleeing the fighting, heading east to AlJazeera and other towns. This is not the first attack today. The city was hit several times during the day, the last attack being less than an hour ago, here in the residential town of Ras Lanuf. A short while ago, we heard the loud sounds of explosions. I want to show you this unexploded rocket that fell in the same home and left a huge crater. It landed about 100 meters from the home we just showed you.
Well, some representatives of Libya's opposition National Council claim that Muammar Gaddafi sent an envoy to Benghazi to strike a deal with the group. Lawrence Lee reports on the confusion surrounding those reports.
For a man with such a strong line in bombast and exaggeration, the suggestion of Gaddafi making a deal on the quiet which would allow him to escape Libya unscathed is startling. It's claimed he raised the suggestion on Sunday when opposition forces were on the road to Sirte, his hometown, and before the Libyan army had retaken the town of Bin Jawad and pushed the rebels back. According to Al Jazeera's sources in Libya, Gaddafi sent this man, a former prime minister who's from Benghazi, as his envoy to the shadow government there, with an offer which would end the violence. It seems his main demands were aimed less at ensuring the future of the country and more to make sure that he and his family could continue living in luxury. So it's alleged that Gaddafi wanted assurances that he wouldn't be prosecuted for crimes against humanity, that he and his family would be able to leave to a country of his choosing, and that he would retain assets, many of which have been seized in countries from Europe to Japan. The message back from Benghazi to Gaddafi was equally specific: end the bombing and get out of Libya within 72 hours.
We see no objection in ending bloodshed among the Libyans in return for 2 key demands. First, Muammar Gaddafi stopping air and inland bombardment of Zawiya, Misrata and Ras Lanuf. Second, his immediate departure within 72 hours. And in return, we guarantee that he will not be prosecuted domestically.
What prompted Gaddafi to fold in this way is unclear, since his troops have been gaining ground. Perhaps as well as fears about prosecution, he's becoming concerned about the growing pressure from the international community to raise the threat of a military response.
We've got NATO, as we speak, consulting in Brussels around a wide range of potential options, including potential military options, in response to the violence that continues to take place inside of Libya.
There may be many ordinary people in Benghazi who see Gaddafi's demands as outrageous, and perhaps the authorities too. But equally, if Gaddafi